The coffee mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the kitchen floor, sending ceramic shards skittering across the tiles like tiny white accusations. But I barely noticed the mess at my feet, because my eyes were locked on the screen of my husband's phone, reading words that would destroy everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My name is Diane Mitchell. I'm 34 years old, and I've been married to Marcus for 9 years. Until yesterday afternoon, I thought we had a good life together. Not perfect, but solid. The kind of marriage where you finish each other's sentences and know exactly how the other person takes their coffee. 2 sugars, no cream for Marcus. Black with a splash of oat milk for me. Funny how you can know someone's coffee order by heart, but completely miss that they've been living a double life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this nightmare actually began, because the moment I found those text messages wasn't the beginning. It was just the moment when everything finally, brutally made sense. It started 3 weeks ago on a Sunday afternoon. My sister Rachel had called me in tears. Her daughter Emma, my 16-year-old niece, had just found out she was pregnant. Rachel was devastated, overwhelmed, and completely lost about what to do next. Emma was a junior in high school, an honor student with college aspirations. And now her entire future felt like it was hanging by a thread. I remember sitting at our kitchen table, the same table where Marcus and I had eaten breakfast that morning, laughing about something stupid we'd seen on TV. I was crying as I told him about Emma's situation, about how scared Rachel was, about how this beautiful, smart girl now faced an impossible choice about her future. Marcus barely looked up from his laptop. He was working on some presentation for his sales job, fingers tapping away at the keyboard. "That's unfortunate," he said, his voice flat and distant, like I was telling him about a minor traffic delay instead of a family crisis. "Unfortunate?" I repeated, unable to believe what I was hearing. "Marcus, she's 16. She's terrified. My sister is falling apart." He finally looked at me then, and his expression was cold. Colder than I'd ever seen it. "Well, Diane, maybe if your sister had raised her daughter better, the girl wouldn't have made such a stupid mistake." The word hit me like a slap. Mistake. He called my niece a mistake. "She's not a mistake," I said quietly, my voice shaking. "She's a child who made a choice, yes, but she's not a mistake. She's a person, Marcus. A person we love." He shrugged, and went back to his laptop. "If you say so, I just think it's irresponsible, that's all. Actions have consequences." I stared at him, this man I'd shared a bed with for nearly a decade, and felt something shift inside me. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was something else. A kind of recognition, like when you're looking at one of those optical illusions, and suddenly the hidden image becomes clear. Once you see it, you can never unsee it. Marcus had always been a little detached when it came to my family. He rarely came to family gatherings, always had some excuse about work or being tired. When he did show up, he'd spend most of the time on his phone, barely engaging in conversations. I'd always made excuses for him. He's an introvert. He's stressed about work. He's not great with big groups. But calling Emma a mistake? That wasn't introversion or stress. That was cruelty. For the next 3 weeks, I threw myself into helping Rachel and Emma. I went with them to doctor's appointments. I researched their options. I held Emma while she cried about the boy who'd promised he loved her, and then blocked her number the second she told him about the pregnancy. I sat with Rachel late at night, both of us drinking chamomile tea that did nothing to calm our nerves, talking through every possible scenario for Emma's future. Marcus noticed my absence, but only in the way someone notices when their favorite coffee shop is closed. Mildly inconvenient, nothing more. "You're spending a lot of time over there," he'd comment when I'd come home late, not with concern or empathy, just observation, like a scientist noting data. "My family needs me," I'd reply, and he'd nod and go back to whatever he was doing. Last Tuesday, Emma made her decision. She was going to keep the baby. It wasn't an easy choice, and it wasn't made lightly. She'd spent hours talking to counselors, looking at her options, thinking about what she wanted her life to look like. In the end, she decided she wanted to be a mother. Rachel was scared but supportive. The whole family rallied around her. I came home that night feeling emotionally exhausted, but also strangely hopeful. Yes, it would be hard. Yes, Emma's life would look different than we'd all imagined. But she'd made a choice from a place of strength, and we were all going to help her through it. Marcus was in the living room when I walked in, sitting on the leather couch we'd picked out together 5 years ago. He was scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging my entrance. Emma decided to keep the baby, I told him, setting my purse down on the entryway table. She's going to finish high school online, and then go to community college while living at home. Rachel's going to help with childcare. It's going to be okay. He looked up at me with that same cold expression from 3 weeks ago. So she's doubling down on her mistake. Great. That's just great. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, like a thread pulling free from a seam. Stop calling her that. Calling her what? A mistake? That's what this is, Diane. A mistake that's going to derail her entire life, and probably your sister's too. But sure, let's all pretend this is some beautiful miracle. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of this room. Go somewhere else. I don't want to look at you right now. He stood up, his face flushing with anger. This is my house too. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my purse and walked out the front door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get my keys out. I drove aimlessly for an hour, tears streaming down my face. Who was this man I'd married? When had he become so callous, so cruel? Or had he always been this way, and I'd just been too blind to see it? I ended up at a coffee shop near the park where Marcus and I had our first date. I sat there for 2 hours, nursing a latte that went cold, trying to figure out what to do next. My phone buzzed with texts from Marcus, first asking where I was, then telling me I was being dramatic, then silence. When I finally went home around 10 p.m., the house was dark. Marcus's car was in the driveway, so I knew he was home. Probably in bed already. He was always an early sleeper. I walked in quietly, not wanting to wake him, not ready for another confrontation. I just wanted to take a shower and go to sleep and figure out tomorrow when tomorrow came. That's when I saw it. His phone, sitting on the kitchen counter, plugged into the charger. Marcus never left his phone lying around. Never. He always kept it in his pocket, or right next to him. The man took his phone into the bathroom, for God's sake. I stood there staring at it for a long moment. In 9 years of marriage, I'd never once gone through Marcus's phone. Not because I was some saint, but because I'd never had a reason to. I trusted him. Or maybe I just never wanted to know. But something about the way he'd been acting, the coldness, the distance, the cruelty toward Emma, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was trying to solve. And his phone, sitting there unguarded for the first time in recent memory, felt like the missing piece that would make everything clear. I picked it up. My hands were shaking again. The screen lit up, and to my surprise, it wasn't locked. He must have forgotten to enable the auto lock when he plugged it in. The first thing I saw was his text message app, still open to a conversation. A conversation with someone named J.K. My heart started pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. I almost put the phone down right then. Part of me knew that once I read those messages, there would be no going back. Whatever I found would change everything. But I couldn't stop myself. I needed to know. I started scrolling, and with each message I read, the world I'd known for 9 years crumbled around me like a sandcastle hit by a wave. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I've been thinking about you all day. That meeting ran late, but it was worth it. Being with you is the only thing that makes this bearable. She has no idea. She's too busy with her sister's drama to notice anything. I know, baby. Just a little longer. We can't risk her finding out before the promotion goes through. I scrolled further back. The messages went on for months, maybe longer. There were photos too. Photos of Marcus with a woman I didn't recognize. A blonde woman, younger than me, pretty in that Instagram filter kind of way. They were at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never seen, living a whole life I knew nothing about. My legs gave out, and I sank to the floor, still clutching his phone, reading message after message. Each one was a knife twisting deeper into my chest. And then I found the message from 2 days ago. The day after I'd told Marcus about Emma's decision to keep the baby. Diane spent all day with her trashy family again. God, I can't wait until I don't have to pretend to care about her sister's mistakes anymore. Just a few more months and we can be done with this charade. And Jay's response. I know it's hard, babe, but think about it this way. Once the divorce is final and you get that VP position, we can finally be together public. No more hiding. No more pretending to care about your wife's pathetic family drama. The best part is she has no clue. She actually thinks I'm just stressed about work. She's so naive it's almost funny. Lol. Well, her naivety is working in our favor. Just keep playing the devoted husband for a few more months. The promotion should come through by January. Then you can file for divorce and take half of everything. Your lawyer said the timing is perfect. I know. Trust me, I've been planning this for a while. I just have to keep up the act a little longer. Pretend to care about her niece's screw-up. Nod and smile at family dinners, the usual. You're so good at it, though. When we were at that work dinner last week, I almost believed you when you talked about your wife. You made it sound like you actually respected her. Well, I've had 9 years of practice. At this point, lying to Diane is easier than telling the truth. She believes whatever I tell her. I stopped reading. I couldn't take any more. I sat there on the cold kitchen floor, surrounded by the shards of the coffee mug I'd dropped what felt like hours ago. But had probably only been minutes. And I tried to process what I just learned. My husband was having an affair. He'd been having an affair for months. Maybe longer. He was planning to divorce me. But only after he secured a promotion at work, so he'd have more money to split. Everything, literally everything about our marriage was a lie. And all that cruelty toward Emma, all that coldness, it wasn't about her at all. It was about him. His resentment toward me was so deep that he couldn't even fake compassion for a scared teenage girl. She's so naive. It's almost funny. Those words echoed in my head. 9 years. 9 years I'd spent building a life with this man. 9 years of making him coffee with 2 sugars, no cream. 9 years of supporting his career, going to his work events, listening to his problems. 9 years of choosing him every single day. And he thought I was naive, pathetic, funny. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Marcus, coming down to see who was making noise in the kitchen. I looked up and saw him standing in the doorway in his pajama pants, an old college t-shirt, squinting in the bright kitchen light. Diane, what are you doing on the floor? Did you drop something? I held up his phone. Who's Jay? The blood drained from his face. For a second, maybe 2, he just stood there frozen. Then his expression changed. Not to guilt or shame or remorse. No, it changed to calculation. I could literally see him trying to figure out his next move, what lie would work best. Diane, let me explain who's Jay, Marcus. My voice was eerily calm, steady. I didn't even sound like myself. He took a step toward me. It's not what you think, really. Because what I think is that Jay is your mistress. What I think is that you've been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. What I think is that you've been planning to divorce me, but you're waiting until after you get promoted so you can maximize what you take in the split. What I think is that every single moment of our marriage has been a lie. So please, tell me, what is it if it's not what I think? He opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. How much did you read? That's what he asked. Not, I'm sorry. Not, it's not true. Not, let me explain. Just how much did you read? Like the only problem here was that he'd gotten caught, not that he'd done it in the first place. I stood up, still holding his phone. My legs felt shaky, but I managed to stay upright. Enough. I read enough to know that you're not the man I thought I married. Or maybe you are. And I was just too naive to see it. Isn't that what you called me? Naive? Diane, come on, no. I cut him off. No more. No more lies. No more excuses. No more pretending. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. How had I missed this? How had I not seen the contempt in his eyes, the calculation in his smile, the emptiness of his affection? You called my niece a mistake, I said quietly. Twice. You called a scared 16-year-old girl a mistake, and you couldn't even fake compassion for her, because you were so busy resenting me and planning your exit strategy with your mistress. That's not, yes, it is. My voice got louder. That's exactly what it is. You couldn't even pretend to care about a child in our family, because you were too wrapped up in your affair and your schemes. You know what the saddest part is? If you just told me you were unhappy, if you just said you wanted out, I would have let you go. We could have handled this like adults. But instead, you chose to lie, to cheat, to mock me behind my back while I stood by you for 9 years. Marcus's expression hardened. The mask dropped completely. You want to know the truth, Diane? Fine. Yes, I'm seeing someone else. Yes, I've been planning to leave, and you know why? Because being married to you is suffocating. Everything is always about your feelings, your family, your needs. When was the last time you asked me what I wanted? When was the last time you prioritized my career over your sister's constant drama? I actually laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. Your career. I've done nothing but support your career, Marcus. I went to every company dinner. I moved cities when you got that job in Atlanta. I put my own career on hold so you could travel for work without worrying about household responsibilities. What more did you want from me? I wanted a partner, not a martyr, he spat. Everything you did, you acted like you were doing me some huge favor. Like I should be grateful that you deigned to support me. I never. Yes, you did. Every time. Oh, Marcus got another promotion. I'm so proud of him. Oh, Marcus had to travel again. But that's okay, I can handle things here. It was always about how much you were sacrificing, how much you were giving up. It got old, Diane. I stared at him, stunned. In his mind, he'd actually rewritten our entire marriage to make himself the victim. He'd taken every act of love, every gesture of support, and twisted it into some burden I'd forced upon him. Get out, I said. What? Get out of this house. Right now. I don't care where you go. Go to Jay's place. Go to a hotel. Go sleep in your car. I don't care. But get out of my sight. This is my house too, he said, his voice taking on that same condescending tone he'd used about Emma. You can't just kick me out. Watch me. I pulled my own phone out of my pocket and started dialing. I'm calling my brother. He's a lawyer, as you know. And I'm calling the police. And then I'm calling every single person we know and telling them exactly what you did. So you can either leave now with some shred of dignity, or you can leave in handcuffs when I report you for the financial fraud I'm sure I'll find once I start digging into where our money's been going these past few months. That got his attention. The color drained from his face again. You wouldn't try me. We stood there staring at each other. Two people who used to share a bed, who used to laugh together, who used to plan a future. And now we were enemies. Just like that. 9 years, gone in the space of one horrible night. Marcus grabbed his keys from the hook by the door. Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over, Diane. We have assets, joint accounts, property. You can't just. The only thing I can't do is continue pretending this marriage was real, I interrupted. Now, get out before I change my mind about calling the police right now. He left. The door slammed behind him, and I heard his car start up in the driveway, the engine revving as he backed out too fast, tires squealing as he drove away. And then I was alone. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, listening to the silence. The refrigerator hummed, the clock on the wall ticked. Outside, a dog barked, normal sounds. Life going on as if nothing had changed, even though everything had. Eventually, I sat down at the kitchen table and called Rachel. It was past midnight, but she answered on the second ring. Diane? What's wrong? And I told her everything. About Marcus's comments about Emma, about the phone, about Jay, about the affair, the betrayal, the planned divorce, all of it. I told her how he'd called her daughter a mistake while planning to destroy our marriage. I told her about 9 years of lies. Rachel listened without interrupting, and when I finally finished, she was quiet for a moment. I never liked him, she finally said. I know I never said it because you seemed happy, but I never liked him. There was always something cold about him, something off. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have listened? I thought about that. Would I have? Probably not. When you love someone, when you've committed your life to them, you don't want to hear warnings. You don't want to see the red flags. You just want to believe in the story you've told yourself about who they are. I'm so sorry, Diane, Rachel continued. I'm sorry you're going through this. But you know what? You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be free. Free. The word felt foreign. For 9 years, I'd defined myself as Marcus's wife, Marcus's partner, the woman who supported Marcus. Who was I without that identity? Can I come stay with you for a few days? I asked. I can't be in this house right now. Of course. Come now. Emma's still up. We've been watching movies. We'll make up the guest room. I packed a bag with shaking hands, grabbed my laptop and important documents, and left the house that no longer felt like home. As I pulled out of the driveway, I looked back at it one more time. 9 years of memories, good and bad, real and fake, all trapped behind those walls. When I got to Rachel's house, she was waiting on the porch. She hugged me tight, and I finally let myself cry. Not quiet tears, but big gulping sobs that made my whole body shake. I cried for the marriage I thought I had. I cried for the trust that was broken. I cried for the 9 years I'd never get back. But somewhere in the grief, there was also relief, because Rachel was right. I was going to be free. Emma came out onto the porch, her belly just starting to show under her oversized sweatshirt. She looked scared and young and brave all at once. "Aunt Diane, are you okay?" I wiped my eyes and looked at this girl, this beautiful, strong girl who Marcus had called a mistake. "You know what, Emma? I will be. We both will be." She hugged me, and I hugged her back, and I realized something. Marcus had called Emma a mistake because he saw her pregnancy as a disruption, an inconvenience, something that didn't fit into his neat little plan for life. But Emma wasn't a mistake. She was a person making the best choices she could with the hand she'd been dealt. She was brave. She was real. And me? For 9 years, I'd been living a lie. I'd been the naive wife who believed in a marriage that existed only in my imagination. But that was over now. The next morning, I called my brother. He was furious when I told him everything. But he was also practical. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "First, we're going to freeze your joint accounts. Then we're going to document everything. Every text, every photo, every piece of evidence of his affair. Georgia is technically a no-fault divorce state, but we want a record anyway. And then we're going to file for divorce on your terms, not his." "What about the house?" I asked. "What about it? You want it?" I thought about the kitchen where I'd dropped the coffee mug, the bedroom where I'd slept next to a stranger for 9 years, the living room where Marcus had called my niece a mistake. "No," I said. "I don't want it. I don't want any of it. I just want to be done. Then we sell it and split the proceeds. Same with everything else. We'll make this as quick and clean as possible." Over the next few weeks, my life transformed. I moved into a small apartment across town. It was a third of the size of the house I'd shared with Marcus, but it was mine. Only mine. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, with bright colors and plants and photographs of my family. My real family, the people who actually loved me. Marcus tried to reach out several times, first through angry texts, accusing me of overreacting, then through his lawyer, trying to negotiate terms, then through mutual friends, playing the victim, saying I'd blindsided him, that we could work through this if I'd just be reasonable. I blocked his number. I told his lawyer to communicate through my brother. I told our mutual friends the truth about what he'd done, and let them make their own decisions about who to believe. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Marcus didn't get his promotion, by the way. Turns out the company found out about his affair with Jay, who was apparently a subordinate at work, and he was quietly let go for violating the company's ethics policy. He tried to blame me for that too, saying I'd sabotaged him, but I hadn't said a word to his employer. He'd sabotaged himself. As for Jay, I heard through the grapevine that she'd left him once the affair wasn't exciting anymore. Once it was just two people dealing with real life, without the thrill of sneaking around. She'd apparently lost interest. Marcus tried to win her back, but she'd already moved on to someone else. I won't lie and say the divorce was easy. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, grieving not for Marcus, but for the life I thought I'd had. There were moments when I felt stupid for not seeing the signs sooner. There were days when I questioned every decision I'd ever made. But slowly, day by day, I healed. I threw myself into my work and actually got a promotion of my own. I spent more time with Rachel and Emma, helping them prepare for the baby. I reconnected with old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. I started going to therapy and working through 9 years of gaslighting and manipulation. Emma had her baby 6 months after my divorce was finalized. A beautiful little girl she named Hope. When I held Hope for the first time, this tiny, perfect person who Marcus had called a mistake before she was even born, I cried. "She's beautiful," I told Emma. "You're going to be an amazing mother." Emma smiled, exhausted but radiant. "Thank you for being here, Aunt Diane, for everything." "Always," I promised. And I meant it, because that's what family does. Real family. Not the fake kind you pretend to have while planning your exit strategy. Not the performative kind where you go through the motions without actually caring. Real family shows up. Real family supports you through the hard stuff. Real family doesn't call you a mistake. I think about that night in the kitchen sometimes. The night I dropped the coffee mug and read the text that changed everything. Part of me wishes I'd never looked at that phone. Part of me wishes I could have stayed ignorant just a little longer, living in the comfortable lie of my marriage. But most of me is grateful. Grateful that I found out. Grateful that I got out. Grateful for the chance to build a real life, an honest life, a life that's actually mine. Because here's what I learned. Being called naive by someone who lies to you every day doesn't make you naive. It makes them a liar. Believing in love, in commitment, in partnership. That's not stupid. That's human. The mistake wasn't trusting Marcus. The mistake was Marcus thinking he could get away with betraying that trust. Emma's not a mistake. Hope isn't a mistake. And me? I wasn't a mistake either, despite what Marcus thought. I was just a woman who loved someone who didn't deserve it. But that's on him, not me. These days, I'm happy. Really happy. Not the fake happiness I performed during my marriage, but real, deep in my bones happiness. I have a job I love, an apartment that feels like home, a family that supports me, friends who actually care about me, and coffee. I still drink coffee every morning, but now I make it just for me. Black with a splash of oat milk, exactly how I like it. No one else's order to remember, no one else's needs to prioritize above my own. Sometimes people ask me if I regret getting married, if I feel like I wasted 9 years of my life. And honestly, no. Those 9 years taught me what I don't want. They taught me how to recognize red flags. They taught me that love isn't just about commitment. It's about honesty and respect and actually caring about the person you're with. Most importantly, those 9 years led me to this moment. To Hope's first birthday party last month, where I watched Emma blow out candles with her daughter in her arms, surrounded by family who loves her. To Rachel squeezing my hand and whispering, "We made it." To a life that's messier and harder and more beautiful than anything I could have imagined in that perfect sterile house with Marcus. So yeah, Marcus called my niece a mistake. And that same night, I found out my marriage was a lie. But you know what? I'm not angry anymore. I'm not sad. I'm just grateful. Grateful for the truth. Grateful for the courage to leave. Grateful for a fresh start. Grateful for family who shows up when it matters. Grateful for little Hope, who will grow up knowing she was wanted and loved. Never a mistake. And grateful that I finally know exactly how I like my coffee. Just for me. No one else's order to remember. Because in the end, that's what freedom tastes like. And it's even better than I imagined. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending us super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next whisper.